Oops. Hey there, everybody. We live. Sorry, I just had to work on a few last minute things here. Welcome back to the channel. This is United versus Everybody, formerly MUFC versus Everybody. But again, like I said the other day, that felt like a bit of a mouthful. I'm going to turn the camera down, or the light down a little bit. But this is the Man United fan channel, where fan opinion comes first always. This channel is built by your guys' opinions, your guys' views. I'm just the host. I'm Sean, and I'm just here to kind of put out the topics and kind of start that conversation and keep things going. So thank you guys for making the channel what it is so far. We are back now, 24 hours removed from Manchester United's away loss at Brighton at the Amex Stadium after we limped out of the stadium following a lackluster performance that saw us come away empty-handed. Hello, Danny. Hello, Usman. Welcome back, everybody. Glad to see you guys back here today to get your thoughts in on the match. Of course, yesterday I was here with my initial reaction after the final whistle. If you guys want to go check that out, please go ahead and do so. I just need to make this a little bit smaller. Sorry. All these technical difficulties as I'm learning more and more about how to do stuff with my computer other than check email. But today, as always, 24 hours later, I'm here with my 3 thoughts on the match, and also to get your thoughts on the loss, as we've all had a chance to kind of sleep on it. We've had a chance to decompress, to kind of cool off a bit. Again, my 3 thoughts. I don't profess to be an expert. I don't profess to be any sort of coach or anything. These are just the 3 things that I've noticed, and everyone's going to notice and take away something a little different just because we're all different. So feel free to get your thoughts in as we go along. But these are going to be my 3 thoughts on the match as Manchester United lose on the road 2-1 to Brighton to drop all 3 points. So first things first, slow, sloppy, and switched off. We were not great. If you caught my initial match reaction, it was just, I felt like we were a little slow. We weren't really moving the ball very well, and just a little hesitant almost when it came to figuring out what to do. I thought our pressing was very good, and we caused Brighton's back line a few problems and a few frantic moments. Hey, Nick, how are you, my friend? So we did cause them a little discomfort early on, but we looked just as uncomfortable on the ball ourselves. Did that title of that little screen go through pretty well? I'm learning, like I said. Let me know what you thought. And I may be a little harsh, but I thought that everybody from Onana all the way up to Bruno, we wanted too much time on the ball. It just invited pressure. We were causing unnecessary pressure on ourselves by just holding on to it for a little too long. And this happened a lot when we tried to build out from the back. Saw Licha having to spin and create space for himself. Onana kind of waiting to the last second to get that ball away. I thought there were times where Onana could have released the ball, but he ended up passing it to a defender, only for the defender to pass it back to him and him just release it anyway. Like, just again, that whole breakdown added 3 or 4 seconds that just didn't need to be there. And we were just sloppy as a result. Bruno's pass accuracy was surprisingly low. It was like less than 80%. Only completed 1 out of 5 crosses. Only 1 out of 4 long balls for Bruno. I just feel like he's, in that regard, he's a little wasted in that advanced position, if that makes sense. I feel like when he's the tip of the spear and not like the couple links ahead of it, it's not as effective for us. So I definitely need to see more from Rashford and Mount. I think Mount has a lot to do to still show me why we bought him. I know it's only two matches in, but I feel like I haven't seen enough for me to be like, yeah, he was worth spending the money on. He was worth giving the number 7. He was worth prioritizing over some of the other positions we needed to prioritize a year ago. I don't buy. I'm not going to sit here and call Ten Hag a liar, but I don't buy the whole explanation for subbing him off, that he felt something or he had an issue or something and we didn't want to risk fitness. I'm not buying it personally, but the problem is both Mount and Rashford just not been great. So like, even combined, both of them had fewer touches than any other single player in our starting 11 yesterday. They just weren't getting on the ball. We're struggling to find our wide players, I feel like. And even when we did neither Rashford or Ahmad showed a whole lot of willingness or maybe even capability of getting the ball up the pitch. Both of them, both Rashford and Ahmad, only attempted 3 dribbles apiece, and each of them only completed one of these dribbles. So again, it's just sloppy, slow. We're getting the ball and we're not trying to get into advanced positions. And this is the problem. This is why it's so frustrating. Like I said yesterday, when we do, like in that Shaw video I did on Luke Shaw, when he gets into advanced positions and doesn't just stop and pass it backwards or sideways, we cause problems. When Anthony gets into advanced positions, when he takes on his man and gets into the box, we create opportunities. Ahmad did it. Garnacho does it. We can do it when we get the ball forward. We just, I don't know if it's a tactical thing or if it's a confidence mentality thing or what. Too often we just stop like a deer in headlights, and it's freaking annoying to watch. The less said about Brighton's opening goal, the better. I think Dallo should have done a little better to close down Pedro, but Pedro was given nothing but time and space to put that ball into the box, and it was obviously Maguire should have done better. Once that ball was put into the box, he just kind of let it go by. This is from a lack of communication, a lack of initiative, assertiveness. Ball went all the way out from Pedro, who was way outside of our box, all the way through to the back post, bounced even to Matoma, who just easily just passed it back across the face of goal. Onana maybe should have come down to that and smothered it a little bit. I don't know what Maguire's thinking, just letting it go through, like I said, and I mean it's anyone's guess what was going on there. I don't feel like he and Maguire and Onana are kind of on the same page when it comes to just that relationship. We saw it against Fulham. Ball was on the ground in our area. Maguire's got his back to the Fulham attacker. Onana's does. Neither of them are communicating that. They're just kind of looking at each other. And then finally, after a couple seconds of that, Maguire trying to hold off the attacker, Onana comes and grabs that ball. Like, where's the communication? These players need to use their words, like talk to each other. What are you guys saying here? Danny B, players' mentality goes out the window when the opposition score. We can only control games in small phases. I've never seen this dominate a team for a full 90 minutes in years. We'll talk a little bit about that. Maybe I'll do another video. Like I've said many times, when I was with Stretty News, I wrote a whole article on resilience, which is basically what you're talking about, Danny. How do you respond to adversity? How do you respond to mistakes? How do you respond in this context? How do you respond to conceding a goal, to whatever that is? Like, how do you respond mentally in that moment? What are you doing? So maybe I'll dig up that old article and kind of go through some of the key talking points. Some of it's probably a little moot, though, because it was from, last year. But mentality applies because, as you're saying, Danny, we're still seeing the same issues. The defending for Brighton's winning goal, if you can even call that defending, was one of the worst things that I've ever seen. And I know you guys have probably watched it. I watched the game again this morning before I was doing this. Here, I'm gonna see if I can put this on your screen just so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. So can you guys see that? So look at this on the screen, right? We've got everyone, literally every United player who's in this screenshot right here is looking at one player. You've got 4 United players on Adingra. Literally all of our defenders are on Adingra. Both left-sided defenders, so both Licha and Dallo are like, look at Dallo, is supposed to be left back. He's literally the furthest one to the right. And if you look off to the left of your screen, there's the guy who scored the goal is just chilling. Pedro's just chilling there. There's literally no one even seems like they even know he's there. Onana has no idea what's going on. That's embarrassing. Again, that's one of the worst things I've ever seen. And we've seen our fair share of schoolboy errors in defense at United, haven't we? And so it's a little embarrassing that kind of stuff is still happening. You guys let me know if those screen shares are going through pretty well when I do them. I've tried that. I've been practicing that the last couple of days because that's the extent of my tech support. But it shouldn't take 4 defenders to close down Adingra. Again, both of our left-sided defenders, so Licha and Dallo, were closer to Adingra than anyone. No defenders are like to the left of the penalty spot, basically. And none of them are keeping an eye on the back post. And you couldn't see it in that shot, but there were 3 Brighton players basically ready to go at that back post to put that ball in. So they literally it was just like take your shot, basically. Not a good look. So again, sloppy, switched off, just not alert to the danger. I don't know if it's a traveling thing or what, but we have seen this time and time again. These just individual moments of switching off, bad touches, just not communicating. They are the defining moments. And I've said it before. Even pebbles make big ripples in a pond. Even small decisions, small moments, they have big long-term implications more often than not. Like or even just finances. Like people worry about one big car payment when really it's the $5 latte that people get every day on their way to work that's going to add up over the course of a few months. Little things add up. So that stoppage time winner actually gave us yet another unwanted record. This is coming from Optajoe on Twitter. So since 2022-2023, Manchester United have lost more league games thanks to goals scored in the 90th minute plus stoppage time than any other side. That's 6. They only lost 2 such games in the first 30 campaigns in the competition combined. That we're just gifting these unwanted records to people. Like Ugarte can't get here soon enough, in my opinion. I'm trying not to imagine how yesterday's match would have gone had Ugarte been on the pitch. Because it's just going to make me mad. But if we just gotten that deal over the line, like it's just this has been a frustration for such a long time for me with some of the way we approach the transfer window. We've seen it the last couple summers. We wait too long to get players in. We miss out on players because we spend a lot of time haggling over a few $1 million, and it's annoying. And I told you the other day that haggling over a few million is not worth the points that we could easily drop with a player like Ugarte on the pitch. But here we are yet again. Danny B says, Mainu started very well, but you could see him fading out in the second half. He has to cover his ground, and Cass is a liability up against a quality ball progressing midfielder. Cass he started reverting to type a little bit toward the second half. He was going to ground when instead of trying to move his legs a little bit and just stay with the attacker. He was getting passed by a little bit. Danny says Ahmad Cash taking them half chances. And that ball in from Dallo, to be fair to Dallo, that ball in that Ahmad got on the end of was a thing of beauty. But it's just, we need a clinical finisher in those moments. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit because it's just frustrating. I forgot that I was wearing this one. This is super old. As you can see, I don't know if you can tell, it's got some miles on it. This is from the 2009, 2010. Really like this one, but this is the one I wear for like mowing the lawn and stuff. But it's just sloppy, slow, switched off defensively, moving the ball a little too slow. We're a little sloppy, just trying to play out. Like some of the finishing was sloppy, some of the decision-making was sloppy. I thought Dallo was a bit sloppy early on the ball. He was giving it away too easily a couple times. Mainu was getting caught on the ball a couple times in the first half and losing possession. It was just sloppy. And as you say, Danny, Mainu, and we talked about that last week against Fulham, Mainu has looked a little tired, and we're going to talk a little bit about that next with point number 2. Number 2, key players off their game. So it's Bruno, Mainu, Garnacho have all looked, in my opinion, a little off it since returning from the Euros and returning from Copa America. I know Garnacho came on as a sub in the Community Shield. He grabbed a goal, but I wouldn't, and I'm not trying to bash him. I'm just saying don't let that fool you because he's been a little sloppy since. And I'm not trying to bash him again, or any of them for that matter, but I'm just simply pointing out that all 3 are very important players for us, and they just haven't been up to their standards so far this season. And it's two matches in, I get it, but I can't help but just reflect on what I see in the moment, right? So I don't know if that's struggling to adjust to some of these new tactics, or if it's just a bit of rust, like I was maybe saying. I think Bruno in particular is almost wasted a little bit in that kind of false 9, kind of more advanced attacker role. Like I gave you before, his passing was not very great. His accuracy, he wasn't completing a lot of one cross out of 5, 1 out of 4 long balls completed. He had roughly 25 fewer touches against Brighton than he did against Fulham in match week 1, the first week. But still, he somehow managed to create 3 chances. And it's anyone's guess what's going on there. Maybe it's the ball gets to him and then he's finding some, but he's not passing the ball enough. Obviously, he's not getting on the ball enough. He's kind of that last link. It's just, we saw a little bit when Mount managed to get forward, Bruno would kind of move out wide. So if you look at Bruno's heat map, he was picking up wide positions over on the left more often than not, and Mount was finding him up there. But after that, it was just, like I said, only one of those crosses out of 5 actually found their target and things. So it was just, he wasn't as effective when he had the ball as he has been. I think perhaps the main difference was that he took more shots against Fulham than he did against Brighton. So he took 6 shots against Fulham, only took 1 shot against Brighton, and his XG was like miles different. It was almost 1.2 XG against Fulham and only 0.07 against Brighton. So he's just not, like, I don't know if it's rust, if it's just not used to the system, that new role he's playing, but it wasn't the Bruno that we need to see right now, and wasn't the Bruno that we're used to seeing. He seemed like he was trying to create a little bit more for his teammates against Brighton than he did against Fulham, but his expected assists also were a little higher as well. So his 0.73 expected assists versus 0.03 against Fulham. So it's really odd. Danny B says, Bruno needs to play 8 and be told to keep things simple. His instinct reaction to his tack counter, find that Hollywood pass, it's getting frustrated. Yeah, I've criticized Bruno for that in the past. We saw him kind of temper that a little bit late last year, but again, it's one of those situations, kind of like Casemiro, kind of like some of the other players we've seen. It's when there isn't good match like control, and there's not good game management, there's not good resilience, and when you panic a little bit, when the mentality is just not there, you revert to type, and that's exactly what Bruno is doing. You start going on instinct, like you're saying, rather than sticking with the plan. So Casemiro is going to ground a little bit. The players are a little slow to move the ball. Bruno is playing Hollywood passes. Rashford's trying to just run all the time instead of getting on the ball and trying to control possession. It's just too easily we panic, we lose focus, we revert to type, and that's where things break down. And that's hard because people will say, well, a manager needs to fix that. Like, ask any parent, any teacher. Like, I'm a therapist. Like, you can't just make people do things. Like, it's just not that. It's not the way human beings work. Ten Hag just can't make these players do things. Ten Hag might never be able to turn Rashford into the kind of winger that we need him to be, but I think his hands are a little tied by the fact that he's like our poster boy and he's on that big contract. The same reason like Bruno is probably not going to suffer even if he's playing poorly because of what we're paying him now. And so Ten Hag's hands are a little strong there, but that's why I did that video, is this could be a big year for Marcus Rashford. So go check that one out if you haven't yet. He did have more chances created in key passes this weekend in match week 1. So again, I think when he's dropping off to the left and he's trying to make something happen rather than staying up top, that's when you're seeing these chances come. But in that position, it's just not working. It almost seems more like we're just trouble adjusting to that false 9 role. Maybe he can't tell whether to shoot or try to create. Like, he doesn't know what he should do in that situation because you're going against all your natural patterns and habits of doing things. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. With Mainu, it's a weird one, right? Stats wise, this week compared to last week, there's not much difference between the 2 matches compared to the last few matches last season. Though there are some things that jumped out at me when I was looking at it. So if we compare these first 2 matches to the last 2 matches of last season, the difference really is his role on the pitch when it comes to Mainu, right? So this season, if you look at his heat map shows so far, most of his touches are coming just inside of his own half on that left-hand side, right? And you're seeing that, if you're just watching him on the pitch, he's getting the ball deeper. He's trying to make these tackles, and he's not getting as advanced as he was. There was like one moment where he did get advanced, and he got an interception because that press was working. Last season, though, his heat map was higher up the pitch, all these touches. This season, he's been more responsible for holding the ball and dictating play and kind of trying to break up play when we're defending. He's got 20 more touches per match so far this season compared to each of those last 2 seasons last year. So last season in the advanced position, he was given the ball more in advanced positions and trying to like create something. This season, he's holding and he's breaking up play. He's kind of serving as that focal point to kind of control possession a little bit more. He's not used to it. He's still young, because we saw him kind of get dispossessed a few times because he's just overwhelmed, because we're winning the ball, but we're winning it when Brighton are already in those advanced positions with the ball. So they have more bodies on Mainu when he does get the ball, and so it's a little different, right? Danny says, was it me, or did they not want to pass the Xerxes creating for him? There are some instances watching yesterday where you could kind of tell, and maybe that's part of it, where either they're told tactically, or maybe the players just don't have confidence. But I noticed, like, they don't want to give it to Maguire very frequently, especially when we're trying to build out from the back. I don't know. I mean, we can all kind of speculate why that is, right? But as far as Xerxes is concerned, it's anyone's guess what's going on. Maybe they're just not used to it. Maybe maybe they're told not to. I don't know. It seems like sometimes we're forcing, play to slow down and getting a patient buildup, when I'd rather sometimes see us just keep the momentum going. And so part of me thinks it's tactical. Part of me thinks that maybe the players are retreating within themselves. We saw there were a few opportunities where we could have played a switch of play. We could have played a good pass, but it was, again, just another touch, and it was a later pass, or it was another touch. That pass option was completely ignored, and we just passed it back to Onana. Just little things like that. It just felt like you said, Danny, like we got punched, and then we just freaked out and shit the bed, and just slowed everything down. It just took too long to make a simple pass because we didn't want to make a mistake. On Mainu, so going back, again, 20 more touches per match this season than each of those last two matches. 41 and 45 attempted passes this season, compared to 33 and 27 in those last two matches last season. So nearly 20 more passes per match. Again, he's being more of that dictator of play, almost kind of like what Ten Hag was maybe hoping to get in, like Frankie de Jong or something, someone who's going to receive the ball and dictate play a little bit. And again, playing deeper in that defensive role, he's responsible for more defending. So he had 20 and 15 attempted ground duels so far this season against Fulham and Brighton, but only 10 and 5 to end last season, those last two matches. So again, he's higher up the pitch last season, not playing as many passes, not getting involved defensively. But I feel like we're suffering. His defensive responsibilities have increased. He's got more interceptions in both matches, more total tackles, and in this new role compared to last season. So he's being asked clearly to play a little bit of a different role this season. And I think there's going to be an adjustment period. Like I said, he's young. I just worry, though, that with Kobe, but putting him in that holding midfield role and not letting him really get more advanced up the pitch, almost as like an 8, that I feel like we're limiting his impact, and we're suffering as a result. But let me know your thoughts on that. Danny says there was positive too, Sean. We created overload plenty of times and never executed. We'll get there. Don't worry. It's not all bad. I'm just focusing on some of the things that stood out to me, and so I'll get to the positives. Don't worry. Danny says, I think this Brighton team are better than people think. Looking forward to watching them against Arsenal. Yeah, I am looking forward to it. Like I said yesterday, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they beat us, so that must mean that they're world class and other teams need to watch out. I think that they're making some good signings. I think that they play good football. I do think this is a lot to do with a new manager bounce, because we saw it with Spurs as well. Spurs started off really well under Postecoglou last season, and they kind of tapered off a little bit. And that's going to happen, the new manager bounce. That's why they call it a new manager bounce. So I just feel like we kind of get the short end of the stick sometimes when it comes to playing sides who have a new manager. We're going to see it again next week against Liverpool. We saw it against Postecoglou last season, against Wolves last season, and against Brighton. We tend to kind of be the teams who have to deal with that right away. I'm not saying nobody does, because everybody plays a different team. It just seems like we kind of get stuck with that. So as far as Garnacho goes, it's difficult to compare Garnacho's number this season to last season, simply because he's been a sub this season. So the smaller sample size of minutes is going to skew the stats a little bit. But I'm just going here by the eye test, because you do have to do both, right? It's not just stats versus eye test. Anybody can look at stats and kind of twist things and only look at stats and say that's called a McNamara fallacy. It's a logical fallacy, so don't fall into that trap. Like I've said before, stats and eye test, they need to work together. They don't need to butt heads. So again, the smaller sample size with Garnacho skews the stats, but watching some of the early performances, again, just watching it, he has been off it, right? Poor finishing last week. Held on to the ball too long last week against Fulham. Just just I don't know what's going on there. Again, I'm splitting hairs. I'm not trying to over exaggerate everything, but it's just the little things that I've seen. I'm looking at comparing what I've seen so far this season from these key players to what I saw last season from these key players, and it's night and day difference so far. Even Leacha had an off game yesterday. There were several occasions where he gets sucked up way too far up the pitch, gets really drawn in and try to make a challenge, and Brighton got the pass away, and it just takes him out of the game. And now he's chasing the counterattack because he got drawn way too far up the pitch to try to make that challenge. And his positioning on their winning goal was poor. He and Dallo were, our left-sided defenders, and they're the furthest ones on the right. We didn't take 4 players to close down Adingra, like I said. I just thought he just didn't have his best game yesterday. And when it's hard, because when there's so many players who are already not having their best performance, it just doesn't help when like the one person you really depend on in defense is also not having a good game. Maguire was the same. He put in that great match against Fulham, and then just this time it just didn't look like he had a clue what he was going to do. Even Ahmad was a bit sloppy, just the touch was a little off, just not really working for him a whole lot. But again, when he did get the ball and when he did take on his man and he got into the box, he caused problems. We just weren't doing that enough. The thing that stuck out to me with Ahmad, we had that good counterattacking opportunity, and he had a chance to play Rashford in. He just held on to it too long. He played it too late, and it was way behind Rashford, and the whole play dies. Things like that. You can get away with it once or twice in a match, but it would seem like it was just happening over and over and over again. And like, you're not going to get a result when that's the case. There's too many, it just piles on. And so really think that we need to clean up in that regard when we're playing. So let me see what you guys are saying. All right, I got to them all already. So number 3, iffy team selection from Ten Hag, and that includes the starting 11 as well as the substitutions. I think that I'm not blaming. Let me start off. Okay, I'm not blaming Ten Hag for the result. I'm not saying this is all on Ten Hag. It's all his fault. The players don't have responsibility. We just got done talking about how the players have responsibility, right? I'm not screaming for him to be sacked like a lot of people online are doing. These fans that are online that are already calling for Ten Hag to be sacked, by the way, these people are raging because City have trophies, but these are the same fans who are going to sit here and call City cheats, right? You can't you just gotta. I think that we just need to stay off the internet for a while after we lose a match. But all that being said, Ten Hag is not exempt from his responsibility for this result. So I think a combination of him sticking with what worked against Fulham, like against we saw the unchanged starting 11. I think that a combination of that plus persisting, maybe trying to force Mount into this side a little bit, and I'm still not clear on how Mount really fits into this team. And I think being a little too hesitant to start some of these new players like De Ligt, like Zirkzee, I think that's it's combination as far as what Ten Hag is responsible for here. Again, he won't start De Ligt, he won't start Zirkzee. I don't know what's going to happen when Ugarte finally joins. Is that just done for Casemiro? Is Gavi Menu going to sit out and start to be a rotation option? How do you fit Mount, Bruno, Ugarte, Zirkzee, and your wingers all on the side if you want to persist with this false 9 situation? Are the tactical changes and all the new personnel a bit too much for Ten Hag to figure out right away? He's definitely going to have to sort this out. He's going to have to sort it out quickly because we do have Liverpool this weekend, and a second loss on the bounce is not going to go down well with the fans, especially against the Scousers. Danny says 100 Rashford should have been taken off at halftime, not Mount. De Ligt should have started. His loyalty to Deadwood will get him sacked if he continues. Yeah, and then we said that last year too. It didn't happen. We said it with Anthony over and over again, and it wasn't happening. I don't want him to be sacked. I'm just saying, like, his loyalty sometimes to, I don't know if it's loyalty to the player or if it's stubbornness with the system, and he thinks like, no, it's going to work. I'm just going to keep doing it because I know it'll work. One day it'll click. But like, after how many games of it not clicking does it take for you to be like, all right, maybe I need to just not? I don't know. Ten Hag is stubborn. We know that. We like you're saying, Danny, we can praise Mount's pressing. Like his pressing has been very, very good. But is that why Ten Hag brought him to the club? Is that why we spent almost 60 some odd million on him? Is that why we gave him the number 7 shirt? I mean, is he playing in that advanced role just to close down the defenders? He didn't win any ground duels yesterday. completed no dribbles yesterday, no accurate crosses. His passing percentage was fine, yes, but he only attempted 16 passes and completed 15 of them. So this is why I say, you don't just look at percentages. You need to look at the number of passes. You need to look at where the passes are going. A lot of people can skew those numbers. Like I said, it's that McNamara fallacy. You can look at the defender and say, well, look at their pass completion. Cool. But how much of those passes were progressive? How much were long balls? How much were line splitting passes? And how many of them were just side to side to their defender or their keeper? Anybody can have 100% pass accuracy if they only play 10 passes and they're all to their center back partner. So you got to deep these things. Playing Mount and Bruno together, I was just watching the first half again this morning as well. They're kind of sitting in the same position on the pitch. There were some times where Bruno would move off to the left, but I think that's more to accommodate Rashford not really picking up his position very well. And so Mount found a way. When Mount dropped deep and he was kind of a conduit, he was finding passes. I'll give him that in the build-up. But I mean, I need to see more. I'm not calling him bad. I need to see more from Mount, because like I've said before, when his pressing, yes, my dog can chase me around with the ball in the backyard, but it's what you do when you get it that's going to make the difference. It's like there are a lot of players we could have had in the academy. There's a lot of cheaper players we could have bought last year that can do the pressing, but is that all we bought him for? Did we sacrifice those funds for a center back last season and give him out that number 7 shirt because he closes down the opposition defense when we're trying to press? Is Ten Hag playing the false 9 to accommodate Mount in the starting 11 to try to force him in there somehow? I feel like when you really start to look at it closely, it only raises more questions than answers. But again, I'm not trying to overreact. I'm not trying to put a magnifying glass on it. It is only 2 matches in the season. I just have to call it like I see it right now. Nick says, need an athletic and quick feet attacker. We have that. He's injured right now, unfortunately. And we have that in Garnacho. We have that in Ahmad. Ahmad's got good feet. Garnacho's fast. Rashford's fast. It's just that I don't think Rashford suits the system very well. Garnacho's been a little iffy, and Ahmad, I'm surprised Ahmad started, to be honest, after losing his mom. I mean, kudos to he got the goal right. I'm just surprised. Danny says, no, his ball progressing and carrying after the breaking ball in transition is also the reason why we signed him. We have seen small doses of it in a shirt so far, though not much of it. Yeah, and like I said, I pointed out, he was good in some of the link up when he's in the middle of the pitch and we're under pressure and we find him. He's like that outlet. And he did good in a couple of moments under pressure to kind of release that ball and find the open man. It's not happening enough. And I don't necessarily like him that high up the pitch per se. I don't like the way it works defensively, but you don't need to play the false 9 just to have the pressing system that we have. And so I feel like it's limiting Kabi. We're losing a little bit of what Kabi provides. And because Kabi then has to cover for Casemiro again, because our midfield shape in defense is totally different now, we're losing a little bit of everything. And I've spoken about this concept before. It's called the O principle. And so the O principle asserts that a player's deficiencies, I'm not saying a player is bad, it's just the things that they don't have that other teammates do. Their deficiencies, they're not just added, they're multiplied, because if like Kabi Mainoo's like deficiencies, let's say, or Casemiro's deficiencies, like no speed, not good on the tackle, not good recovery, it's going to affect all of his teammates around him. So it's multiplied. It's affecting Mainoo, it's affecting his defenders, it's affecting the wingers, it's affecting everybody. And so the more and more we have to try to pull these players out of their best positions and force them in maybe to play roles that they're not quite naturally gifted at, or they're brand new for them because of the new structure, the more you're going to see that multiplied and affecting everybody. And it's not great. Like I know, and I praise Mount when we signed him, Danny, because I saw things at Chelsea, but I haven't seen enough of it in United shirt. And I've said many times, to be fair, he was injured last season, but that's why I've said this season is going to be big for Mount, because I need to see what the plan was for him when we signed him. And so far, the only thing I've really seen is a couple glimpses of good link-up play and some pressing. I just gave you those numbers in terms of what his other stuff is. You say, like, ball progression. He didn't complete any dribbles yesterday. He didn't win any ground duels yesterday. He got good passing, yes, but the passes, he only attempted 16 of them. So it's not getting on the ball. And I've said, like, he and Rashford combined yesterday had fewer touches than any other single player in our side yesterday. So we're not getting him on the ball. Is that because he's not making himself an option? Is it because we're just not passing the ball? When it comes to Mount, and again, I'm not picking on him. I'm just using it as an example. And again, this category is team selection. This is the sort of decision for Ten Hag, for managers in general, that could have long-term ramifications, right? We need goal scorers in the final third. We're missing too many chances. If Xerxes is fit enough for the bench and he's clearly sharp enough to grab the winner on his debut for the club, then he's fit enough to start and give us a focal point for the attack, in my opinion. It's like when you play a double pivot without a defensive player. We're a bit toothless in front of goal without a striker. And if that means Ten Hag has to bench somebody to bring on someone who can score goals, then so be it. That's what rotation is for. That's what tactical flexibility is about. If it were me, I'd rest Mainu, like Danny said earlier, like maybe Mainu should have gotten subbed off. I'd rest Mainu and use him as a sub for a few matches. Maybe play Mount a little deeper with a little bit license to get forward, kind of as an 8. Put Bruno back in that number 10 role and start Xerxes. I don't think it's that difficult of a solution to see. I think that it's a question of whether Ten Hag is just ready to do that. But you guys let me know. Don't forget to like the video, please. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We are into the 800s now because you guys have just crushed it. You guys have been building that community, getting involved. So thank you for that. Ten Hag subs did cause a bit of an uproar. Again, I don't really know what happened with Mount. I'm not fully 100% buying the whole he had an issue thing. But taking off Bruno, bringing on McTominay didn't really make sense to me. It seemed like it didn't make sense to a lot of people. I don't get that. Let's say like McTominay was brought on to get on the end of something in the box. Okay, cool. He's done that in the past. I get it. But then why take off the player who has the ability to put that ball to him? And create something for him. What was McTominay? McTominay was brought on, and it looked like he was kind of playing in that role that Mount was playing a couple of times, where he was getting involved in the build-up and kind of passing. And to be fair to McTominay, some of his passes were actually good, but is that really what he's here for? Like, that's not ever what McTominay's been for us. Danny says we need to keep the ball, and he brings on McTominay. Yeah, it really frustrated me too, man. Like, I just don't get that. Maybe he was giving him one last run out if the rumors are to be believed. It's weird that, you know, he was doing that at Brighton and it wasn't a game at Old Trafford. Like, who is he? Like, maybe in front of the traveling fans. I don't know. But I just, I would have kept on Bruno. I would have dropped him deeper. I would have put McTominay. If you're going to put McTominay, put him up higher and maybe let him get on the end of something. But it just didn't make sense. It wasn't all doom and gloom, though. Like I said, Danny, it wasn't all negative. Despite all the pessimism, there were some good spells. We did beat Brighton's press several times. We created these counterattacking opportunities really well. It's just the individual moments that kind of things broken down. I said you could get away with it once or twice. When it's happening over and over again because so many players are having an off day, it is going to punish you. I thought the patient build-up for our goal is an example of what can happen when Ten Hag's tactics kind of combine with the counterattacking opportunity. We're passing it back when the opportunity wasn't good. We were passing it around, and then we sucked in the pressure, and then boom, Onana finds Mazraoui with a lob pass. Mazraoui takes it forward, draws in the defense, allowing Ahmad to kind of break on the run, and finds Ahmad. Ahmad takes it in, and we finds the back of the net. That's an example of the system working the way it's supposed to do, but it takes so many people doing everything right for it to work. And so Mazraoui got his first assist for us, so that's good. Xerxes comes on in his debut and scores a goal last week. Mazraoui gets an assist, second game of the season. It looks good. Danny says Bournemouth up against Newcastle. Is that where everybody is today, watching Bournemouth versus Newcastle? Is there what other games are going on today? Chelsea, Wolves are all tied up. Bournemouth 1-0 up against Newcastle. Okay. Anybody? I wonder what the odds are on Eddie Howe making to the end of the season if Newcastle don't have another good season. It's weird too that we had that goal chalked off because it's when you compare it to other similar kind of rulings. So like it's own goals, for instance. Own goals are given if the original shot was not on target. If the shot was on target and deflects off a defender, it's counted as a goal for the attacker, right? But the offside goal we had was chalked off when it doesn't really consider that same spirit. The ball was going in. Whether or not it hit Xerxes is inconsequential. It was already going in. And so I feel like the spirit of the own goal versus giving the goal to attacker needs to be carried over into that kind of situation. And yes, that's me being bitter because it was goal that we had ruled out, but it is what it is. Their opener, as you said, Danny, their opener found the back of the net and our heads dropped a little bit. We slowed down, same old United, no resilience, not great game management. I saw later on in the match, Ten Hag trying to tell Onana to start moving the ball quicker, release the ball quicker. And that's what I was saying it all yesterday. I was saying it during the match. I said it today, moving the ball too slow. Onana just wasn't doing it. And so again, it's those individual moments. It's like it's like when we concede a goal, we get so worried then about making a mistake that we're too hesitant to do anything at all. And this is what happens. The opportunity's shut. It's gone. And quite frankly, I'm getting more and more frustrated with our fan base every season. The amount of fans that are already screaming for Ten Hag to be sacked is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for these people who are putting their opinions online like this. 2 matches into the season, and people are already calling for Ten Hag to get sacked. I've seen Thomas Tuchel photos floating around and stuff. Yes, Ten Hag's selection wasn't great, but it's really these fine margins that cost us because the tactics were working. The players were doing it. Is just we were doing things just too slow, and we made a few too many individual errors of instances of not being switched on, of just sloppy passing, no communication. And this is what happened. You can have a well put together car or a computer, but if one part is just not working, and again, even if multiple parts just have a couple of hiccups, it affects the whole system. Lapses in defending cost us. Lapses in alertness cost us. The matter of a few inches being the difference between our second goal being onside or not cost us. It's just key players struggling a little bit. Looking gassed early doesn't help. Like I said, Mainu has looked super, super tired. Bruno hasn't looked his normal self. Garnacho, I think, needs to start over Rashford. I'd probably put Mount in the Mainu role for a couple matches, see what he can do there, because I don't feel like Mainu. Mainu is great and he's been such a bright spark, but I don't think he needs to be playing every single match of every single game of every single week. We need to have a rotation option. I think Mount needs to be that rotation option, because we've seen that when Bruno is not playing, we struggle. We saw it last season when he was missing for a few matches. We saw it. When he's not playing or he's not playing well, we struggle. Something needs to click before this weekend, though, because Liverpool will punish us. The most important thought, I think, though, I can share on yesterday's result is just not to panic, not to overreact. It's their first loss this season. Yes, it's 2 matches in, so it does feel like it's a lot worse. It's 1 loss. It's going to be fine. There were positives, like I've said, like Danny said. The system is effective, but it just relies on players doing their job. And when so many players had an off day, things can quickly break down, like I've said. The best thing we do, like I said earlier, is stay away from the internet for a little bit. There is a chance that yesterday's match might have been the last one for McTominay in a United shirt. Lots of reports coming out this morning that a fee has supposedly been agreed with Napoli for 25 million in add-ons, and that's coming from a few credible sources. Sancho as well could be going to Juventus this week. He's not been in the matchday squad again for 2nd week in a row. I read that Juventus are looking at a loan with an obligation to buy. Would you guys want Chiesa in at United? Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to jump back into the live chat, see what everybody's saying here. Don't forget to like the video, please. If you're still here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Chelsea, you're struggling. 1-1. I criticize Nicholas Jackson so much, but then he always seems to pop up with a goal. I don't understand. Looking at him play, he doesn't ever worry me. It's like watching Darwin Nunez, but somehow he gets these goals. Danny says, I felt half the ball was over the line before Xerxes touched it. We got screwed again, just like we got screwed against Arsenal start. The ball has to be over the line completely for it to be a goal, though. Right? So if half the ball is over the line, it still doesn't necessarily matter. Danny says, they are a joke. Spoiled brats that love throwing their toys out of the pram. You're talking about these fans. No Chiesa. Danny does not want Chiesa. I'm looking at Chiesa's numbers. They're not bad. I remember him being a big thing, 4 years ago or so, and then it just kind of fell off a little bit. So maybe he could just do with a change of scenery. Who knows? Maybe I think Bayern maybe could do with a good Chiesa in there. They missed out on Doué. I think Chiesa could go do a job at Bayern and do really well. If I had my choice, Sancho would be gone, Anthony would be gone, and we get a young winger. I know we were linked with this Asane Diao, I think what is he at? Betis, 18-year-old. I saw that we were linked with him recently this week. It's funny, I actually remember. So every time I start a Manchester United career mode, I'll sign some different players for different positions that are prioritized, and I did sign him once or twice. Very fast, very good little player. But let me see what we got else going on in here in the chat. Oh, Chelsea scored again now. Palmer, of course, Palmer, friggin' Palmer. Danny, is he any good? I've never watched anything on him. I think I've watched him once or twice, but again, he was 17 last year, so it wasn't like he was playing a lot. Again, the only reason I signed him in career mode is because he just has good numbers, and I was like, oh, I want like a young winger to come in and rotate. So sometimes it was Due, sometimes it was Ezekiel Palacios, sometimes it was Asane, sometimes it was Bino Gittins. It just changed whenever I play, so there's not really any rhyme or reason. I just saw that we were linked with him this week. I know we're looking at a lot of young players. I know we've signed a few young players, so probably another one for the future to join Obi Martin and Kone kind of in the res for a little bit and then jump in. So what are your guys' thoughts, though? I want to ask you guys, as far as the result yesterday goes, what were your main points, aside from mine? Again, just because I've got a ring light and a camera and a channel doesn't mean that what I say is gospel. I want to know what you guys thought. What were some of your big, takeaways, surprises, specific things? We're not here to point fingers or anything. It's just, again, we're reacting to the match and we're going from there. But I think that is going to do it for me today. Again, like the video for me, subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, guys. It is growing, and I'm so thankful and so just humbled by everybody getting involved and getting the comments. So I do appreciate that a lot. Danny says, I have my eyes on a few under 18s in Argentina. Hopefully feeling. I just saw one the other day. Oh, I meant to mention him to you, Danny. I think he was a defensive midfielder at River Plate. I want to say I just added him on FootMob as one to watch. I know this is so unprofessional, but that's fine. Let me see if I can go find him. He's probably in the bottom of my list now. Rodrigo Villagra. Yep. Hold on. Yeah, he's at River Plate. Have you watched him? And then Tobias Palacio is another one I watched at Argentinos Juniors. He's a defender, though. You familiar with those guys? So Rodrigo Villagra, he's a center defensive midfielder for River Plate, and then Tobias Palacios, defender for Argentinos Juniors. Those are two that I was looking at earlier in the week. I feel like you might have mentioned Villagra in the past, but let me know, Dana. You are the Argentina scout, and on that note, I am going to leave it there. I am going to go work out and maybe see if I can get in some footy this afternoon if it's not raining. So until next time, you guys, just, take each match as it comes. Try not to overreact. We'll be doing the match preview for the Liverpool match a little later on. Don't forget Saturday, and not only is Saturday the final day of the transfer window. Saturday, we're going to be doing the video. I'm going to have a guest here, my buddy Justin. We are going to be looking at the transfer window, and then we're going to be looking at our expectations for the season. So don't forget to come back for that one. Get your thoughts in. Help us rate the transfer window. Help us rate the signings. Help us, get some input on the expectations. What are your, deal breakers? What are your musts? What does Ten Hag need to accomplish this season in the league, trophies, all of it? Danny says he has both my list. Look at Nick Paz and Ulysses Jimenez, Augustin Roberto. Man, all right, man. I'm gonna take a look. I'm gonna watch the chat later and get those names out. But until then, you guys, I will see you guys in the next one. If anything big drops, I will be back to get your thoughts. Maybe we'll get a Here We Go on Ugarte. Maybe we'll get that signing. If we don't get that locked up before the Liverpool match, I am gonna lose my shit, and I will be just a pouty baby on Saturday's video rating the transfer window. But until then, you guys, enjoy your day, and I will see you guys on the next one. Later.